What up, y'all? Welcome to episode 20 of the 20 to 40 podcast, man. We got some good stuff for you. We'll always give you the nuggets that we learn going from 20 to 30 to 40 to help you on your journey. And this podcast is a letter to our children or unborn child, if you're a Tupac fan, right? Whatever it want to be. This is going to be all about parenting, what we want to pass on. My intention is even, man, maybe when our kids listen to this in, 15, 20 years and get to look back at, some of the things we wanted to get forward to them. I think it'd be a cool little time capsule. So today we're going to talk about parenting from our generation to the generation before, what's different, what we hope to give forward to the next generation. And I'm just going to give you a few quick stats that I really thought were powerful. Number one, kids spell love Time per Dr. Ken Canfield. So at least 1 hour of focus time daily with a parent children show better emotional security and academic success. But average father-child direct interaction has dropped 30% over the past decade due to screen distraction, and I'm sure probably due to increased work needs for income needs. Children that learn to fail safely at home are 50% more likely to take healthy risks later in life. 70% of fathers say they intentionally parent differently than how they were raised. This is something we'll get into. And then my last one I want to give you is children with engaged fathers are 33% more likely to do well in school and 45% less likely to repeat a grade. This is per the U.S. Department of Education. So pretty cool. So let's get into our first question and kind of our first topic as we're getting into this is, what do you guys think are the differences that fathers or parents in general are facing today versus what our parents faced a generation ago? Because it is, man, it's very different. It's changed very, very quickly. I don't know if things have ever changed this fast as far as one generation to the next. So what are some things that you guys think are different from our parenting needs from our parents' requirements?
Well, I think obviously the first one is childcare. I'm fortunate enough to have my mother-in-law be able to, who's still in the same city uh, to watch my daughter. Um, but just the cost of it. I remember when I had my oldest child, we would take her to the CDC, and so you get like a little reduced rate, but it wasn't nothing crazy, and we could drop her off. They would give her, breakfast and lunch, and then a snack in the afternoon, and so then when I was going to school, and then she was working, we could do it that way. And I think when I was younger, I always just remember there was somebody in the, because my mom and dad, like my dad would work like the graveyard shift. So then someone was home while we were like at school or coming home and stuff. And because my mom was working during the day. And I think that, I don't think I really ever really remember a lot of like childcare issues. Like if my parents needed something or had to do something, like someone would just do it. Like someone would either pick us up or do it. And I just feel like nowadays with just the demand of work and trying to be able to take that time to like go to doctor's appointments and stuff. Like fortunate for me, I can do that. But I know there's a lot of people that struggle with it, right? And if you're working multiple jobs, like how do you find a way to A, pay for your childcare, and B, be able to have that flexibility to be able to things pop up, things happen, especially now with, kids in school, like, you know what I mean? Feel like the schools always need something and you always got to pick them up and you're trying to make your schedule fit around so you're not taken away from the school day. But then if you're not taken away from the school day, you only have so many hours to try to set doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, little things that they got to do, sports physicals and stuff like that. And I just think, the burden of childcare too is more on an individual level, where I think back in the day there was a community aspect to it of, you could always find someone to find a babysitter or some type of childcare. And now it's like, hey, you have these rules in order for us to provide childcare. And if you don't meet those, then you gotta find somewhere else or find something more flexible for you. but the price is not flexible. Like they might work with you if you have multiple kids and stuff like that, but that's and I just think it's harder now to be a parent trying to, especially with the rise of like the internet and cell phones, right? Like making sure your kids aren't all on the screen time and the crazy stuff that might flood through even YouTube Kids or different things and apps that we have. So it is a different, and I think it is a little harder.
I mean, we were abused, plain and simple. I mean, the list of shit that went through my head, I'm like, and we used to get beat the fuck up all the time. I mean, by the time my son was my age, I mean, man, they had me like, man, should I be saying this? Or what's the statute of limitations like? But like, man, they had me like kneeling on rocks, belts, keys, paddles, fucking fly swatters, brooms, whatever. These motherfuckers was crazy back then. So I think raising a kid made us pretty tough, and we couldn't talk back to no fucking buddy. These kids nowadays just do and say whatever the hell they want. So even though, I mean, I make my son apologize to his teacher like 2, 3 times a week when she tells me like, hey, he was doing this. But I'm seeing these other kids in his class and they're kind of running wild. And I'm like, I doubt they come back tomorrow and say, I'm sorry. Like I tell them, like, hey, tomorrow, you don't gotta do it today, but tomorrow when you step in the class, you will tell your teacher sorry for not listening when she told you to color that and you didn't color it. And he goes, okay, and he gives me a hug. So I think I try to use the same discipline standards that we had: respect, yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am. That's what I had to do from like 7 to I was like 16. You know, everybody was yes sir and no ma'am. I couldn't just say yeah or no. I see these little fuckers doing that to their parents. What? I'm like, Jesus Christ, you know, it's just not going to end well for those kids. I think if you don't have that respect foundation right now, you're going to be screwed. On the daycare tip, I think we've mentioned it before. San Diego, when we were looking, we found somebody for 1,100. She was home daycare and referred to by a high school classmate of me and Stevens. But outside of that, the institutions, not the military, because military was like 600, and that's even now. So I already know Steven, it was probably like 260 when you was there or something like that. But man, it was like $2,300 in RB. That's not even hitting the La Jolla's and the standards that they might have right there, you know, because they have cameras everywhere and all this other technology. I'm like, $2,600. I had a conversation with a coworker because she's a military wife, and she has older kids now. And I was asking, I was like, how the hell did y'all do it even, 12 years ago? Like school gets out at 2:30. I make my own schedule, and the best I can do is work 6 to 2:30. You can't come in at 5 a.m. I mean, that's just your supervisor's like, I don't need you at 5 a.m. So I'm like, who the hell's picking up all these goddamn kids? And like Steven said, they always got something. Oh, we got this day, we got that day. And so again, I'm fortunate enough I could take off work. I got plenty of vacation, got plenty of sick time. I could take them to the dentist. There's no issues. But I'm like looking at Kim like, what the hell are we gonna do when this dude goes to the middle school? And we're literally bike distance or walking distance from the elementary, high school, and middle school. And I'm panicking, like, what the hell are we gonna do? What's he gonna do? And my last point is, when we grew up, though, yeah, Camp Pendleton. I think Aubrey, you may have spent some time there. I mean, shit, yeah. After first grade, we walked the fuck home. It's crazy out here nowadays, and I think that's the issue with there is daycare for $300-400, but we see that shit on the news a lot. You know what I mean? It's like so and so's daughter, blah, drowned, poisoned, ate something bad, And so that's the thing. It's like you either pony up the money or don't pony up the money, but now you're putting your kid in a bad position. So I kind of hit a bunch of topics on that.
Yeah, the I do remember walking home mainly. Definitely a big latch key kid. Even living on base and off. But I feel like I don't know if is the social media or the news that we just hear more stories, or were those stories always there? We just didn't know about them. Like this kid was found in the pool because he was home alone, or she ate something wrong. So it is very different. The cost, I've got some of the cost differences. So in the 1990s, on average, you could find childcare for around $15 a day ish. Now it's looking to $50 to $80 a day ish, right? So difference in cost. They say some of the reasons because of the cost increase is because staff need more training, more technology, more health codes. Like you
They
showed,
got bills too.
yeah. So
They
they
got
got
bills too.
camera systems that because people want to check in all day, which I totally understand. Uh, and I do think you've got things on both sides of that. You've got higher cost of childcare, and you've got that requiring people to work more, which then has to need more childcare because you need more time away. So it's definitely been a strain on both sides, which I think definitely impacts the ability of time to be with children. And I think another part of it too is I feel like parents today more than ever are I need to get my kids a leg up faster. I don't remember when we were 5, 6, 7, 8. It was like, yo, come on, go out to the park. Even if the parents are right there, but just you could have that time to just be a kid. And I feel like now it's like, yo, you need to get ready for the next grade. You need to make sure that you're ready for this sport, this instrument, this application. It seems almost more like there's this feeling of you need to be really ahead because of how much competition there is in the world, which then requires all this extracurricular stuff where I don't remember extracurricular stuff till I was maybe like 15, 16. Like I wasn't doing it early. It was a lot of park time, so
Nah, nigga,
I think
nah.
You,
We was playing at like 5, 6 and shit like that.
I was playing till 10, 11, 12. Park right there, hit it up all night, man.
Nah, we had jerseys on Saturday morning at like 5 or 6. You an outlier, bro. Like that's
Maybe
not.
I'm an outlier. I definitely didn't have it till later. I
You said
remember
like 16. Like goddamn, dog. Like nah, we was.
Pops was like, the price is what? Let me coach. Can you
Hey,
get
that was what it was though, man. You had to be at practice. That might be why. Hey, go play ball at the park because I ain't taking you to practice. I ain't paying for the jersey. Everybody gets a trophy any damn way. I'll get you a trophy, son. Like,
That's how it was, bro, for real. Plus, you had two practices, plus the game, plus I think it was like 125 to 150 back in the day. I was like, damn.
and you had to bring the snacks. Hey, Mr. Clark, it's your week. Like, nah. Hey, son, let's go. I ain't bringing Capri Suns and oranges.
Oh, man. So, yeah, definitely things have changed. Um, And that is a big challenge. One thing I think is big on that is, and this is a whole nother topic, but the money supply getting debased with the printing. I think, like we talk about, what does it impact if they print money right there? Childcare, time required to work to get money to pay child. Those things do impact big. That's one thing right there you see. What if you had your childcare costs go up 30%? I saw a stat right here said childcare costs has actually gone up from 1990s, because that's kind of when we were starting to, be raised, 283%. So almost 300%, right? That's pretty. So if you're like, yo, man, what does this money printing got to do with me right there? All right, let's get into the next one. What did your own parents or lack of, whether it was father or mother, uh, teach you, and how has that shaped your parenting style today?
mm, you know, I, I Pep knows, man. My dad used to beat me. Like I was always getting beat, or I was always in trouble. So I think the one thing, like, obviously my parents were married and everything, but I think sometimes what gets lost in just whether you had your parents, whether they were, you were single parent or whatever, I think it is what is at the heart of this question is what does that teach you? And I would like to say that I think even if you have both of your parents together in doing that, doesn't mean you're always getting taught the right thing either, right? Like I feel like one thing that has uh probably hurt me the most is trying to learn how to be a man growing up and not getting those tools, right? You get some tools, but really not knowing the game and having to figure it out yourself. And it then causes issues in the fact that then you're late to the only way you figure out things is by failing and then learning those things as you go through instead of being like, hey, you know, you could have gave me a little bit more game to get into life so I know what the deal is, right? And so, and then with my mom was like the complete opposite. She would never hit us, or if she did, it means he was just so mad that that's it, right? Like it was very rare, and it didn't hurt, right? It was like a slipper or something. And my dad's with switches and belts, right? And so it also showed me that I had to be able to talk and communicate with my children and understand emotionally what else is going on with them. And I think like the mental aspect of being a kid. And I think that has led me to try to just like raise my daughters in a way that is more gentle. Obviously, they're it's my daughter, so it's gonna be more gentle. I don't want them to think that it's okay for men to yell or do these things, even if they love you, right? Like I don't want them to have those type of concept. But I also understand that I also have to communicate with them. And how can I be a more effective communicator as a parent, other than just the fact of like, I told you to do it, so just do it. I don't need to explain myself to you. I'm a parent, right? Which you are. There are those times, but there's also those times where after I do that, I have to go. I go into my daughter's room and it's like, hey, you know, my bad. This is what it is. In the moment, I just need you to listen. And then if we need to communicate and talk after, we can do that, right? And so understanding that, what does she need, and be able to listen. Because in my household, it wasn't no back and forth. It's either you do it or you don't, and then that's the consequences. And so I think it really, how our parents raised us, I think Pep is right. It was a lot of abuse, right? Like we used to think about how great it was that we used to just play outside all day. Well, maybe that wasn't the best thing for us to be running around Murphy Canyon all day and just have to come in at the lights on, because we got into a lot of shit when we were kids just because there was no supervision. But then I think now us as parents, we're like the surveillance state, right? Like we are hyper focused on our children to make sure that they're okay, that they're safe, that they're where they're supposed to be. And I think that also adds to the anxiety of parenting. I think anxiety right now is at an all-time high with parents because, like you said, we do want our kids to be doing the best in school. We want them involved in doing stuff that they like. But a lot of parents I see are very on top of their kids. Like, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And trying to give up those reins, because I know what it's like if you have no reins, is hard sometimes to, but that's where the trust comes in. And I think when we were kids, we had very little trust with our parents, right? Like we might have trusted our parents to protect us and stuff, but I wasn't going to tell my parents, hey, I might have been doing donuts in a parking lot and all this stuff, right? Like I'm
No, the
not.
cops told him for us.
Yeah, right. Like, but even if we didn't get caught doing stuff, I don't want to go
Yeah.
tell my parents what I didn't get caught doing. Like, I'm in trouble, right? Like, I don't trust them that much. But trying to build that trust with your children, that they do come to you with those issues, because I felt like I couldn't go to my parents with those issues because of the environment and what was happening around that. I want to be that safe space for my kids and trying to find that way to be that for them as they grow and change.
So this is gonna be, you said this is for the kids a time capsule, because I feel like it's gonna be therapy for me. I'm like having flashbacks and shit. So uh, bear with me. No, for my mom, Tyson was big in the 90s. Maybe that's why they was like too much HBO for these motherfuckers, because she used to fuck us up, right? That's where I'll start. Then when my stepdad came in, we were about maybe 5 or 6, and me and my brothers are a year apart. So if I'm 5 or 6, you got 4 and 7. All of a sudden she turned into kind of like an angel from what I remember. And then he kind of did all the like butt kicking and butt whipping. They both ghetto as hell. So I think I don't know if they talked about it or if it just turned out that way. They did end up splitting up, so I don't think they ever talked about it. I think it just ended up that way. And they were like, what's going on? Like, he's trying to like bam. And she's like, leave him alone. And I'm thinking like 2 years ago, you was bam. So I was just confused as hell as a kid. But like Steven said, we was running the streets. There wasn't a lot of supervision. As I got older and I talked to my parents and I worked with the Marines for 15 years. I'm like, no wonder these motherfuckers didn't give a shit if we were outside, inside, backyard, or a lot of times they said, go outside and stay. That was their break time. And so I guess that'll bring me to where I'm trying to raise my son in the fact that I appreciate everything my parents did. When we talked about who our idols are, who we look up to, I don't say all this bullshit, Charlie Kirk and Kaepernick or Obama or some whack shit like that. It's my fucking parents. They're the ones I lived with, watched grind, watched become who they've become through the military, but just from the slums of their neighborhoods to the great individuals they are right now. They're my heroes. But at the same time, I don't think they gave me enough back then. I hate to say that because I think sometimes they listen to this, but they didn't, right? Like I think in college, Aubrey, I was sleeping on the couch and my mom was giving me a little something, but at the time I wanted more. Like I always tell people, I was eating sugar packets when we go to Denny's after the SDSU basketball games. This shit was funny, but it kind of wasn't. Like I couldn't even afford like food. You know what I mean? Now when I said I need a laptop and printer and I needed to work, she took me to Office Depot and was like, sign the blank check. So it's not that they weren't there for me, but as far as the standards of what was available to me, I was a basketball player. I saw when I mean, Aubrey, you saw me. I started dunking, in college. I got that left hand and was doing the Jordan left hand in college. The skill was always in me, but my dad never took me out and ran. He did sometimes, but like enough, like you don't got to be like our homie Sean or like, I think Brandon did a lot with his kids, but I just felt like I didn't get enough. So yes, there's a piano downstairs. He's only 3.5. I keep wanting to say 4. He's only 3.5. There's a piano downstairs. I have Spanish cards so that he can continue practicing his being bilingual. I'm getting a drum set for Christmas. Yeah, those standards are there. Like when he's playing basketball, I'm like, hey, use your other hand too. Like why? But to me, I'm like, I'm trying to set him up and educationally. Like I said, go apologize to your teacher. Then you got homework since you didn't do it at school. So come here, you don't get your snack, you do it like that. I am way more hovered over him on being a more round person than we were. I took piano lessons, they let me get out. I was on the basketball team, they never took me out. At Sarah High School, Stephen, when I played basketball, it was me at the park by myself. I never had my mom or dad say like, "Yo, keep shooting free throws." It was me till 10 p.m. making sure I hit 5 free throws in a row. That's the difference. I'm not mad at him for it. It made me independent. It made me who I am. I'm happy who I am. I'm happy where all of our lives ended up. But that has shaped me to where I'm gonna put my son in those situations where I'm gonna be there to say, "Okay, that's cool. You did piano lessons for 3 months. Why did you stop practicing?" You know what I mean? Like keep going, keep going, keep going. But I want to find what he's good at. If he don't want to play soccer, I'm not going to keep practicing with him. If he don't want to play piano, I'm not going to keep practicing with him. But once I expose him to something and he shows interest, I'm going to hover over him like I didn't necessarily get hovered over to be so mediocre at everything. I mean, Aubrey, you were in those meetings where, man, Sirod's pretty good at fucking everything, but he ain't really great at nothing. I think that's why.
Yeah, I never forget. You did dunk in a mural game. I was like,
In a game, in a
this little,
game. But I
little
was throwing it off
cat.
the backboard
Yeah,
in practice at 5'9". But can you
yeah.
imagine if my parents actually did calisthenics with me and said, "Man, you jump really high. Let's get you." So
Yeah, no, I feel you. I had kind of like some feelings around that growing up around my dad. My mom has always been there. I think I kind of because she was so like supportive, I kind of felt like that made me a mama's boy and wanted to grow up. So I kind of pushed away from a little bit of that. But looking back, man, without mom's support to really build off of, I wouldn't be anywhere. So thanks always to Mom Dukes, even though, I kind of pushed away from it. I had to come into it like just like a woman needs to learn things from her mom that, teaches her how to be a woman, a man needs to learn those things from a man to teach him how to be a man. It's just how it is. We can't learn that really from the other. So I think I was looking for that with my dad, and I had some issues with just feeling like he wasn't there when he had, more children later on. But I think one of the things that really helped me understand is I did a course called Landmark, which is life changing. I recommend it for everybody because almost everybody in there talked about things that came from their parents. And that's when I really started to realize I was holding on to all these things from my father because I was measuring him based on what I thought he should do. I thought he should have been there for this or been more like this or been more of this. And I wasn't understanding what he got from his parents. And I started understanding that based on my kind of like measurement, he didn't feel there. But based on what he got, he was way above that. Like
yeah,
he didn't meet his mom, real mom, till he was 16. His father and him had not talked for many years, don't really have a relationship at all, like in the last 20, 25 years. Uh, you know, so he couldn't give me what he didn't have. And I think that's one thing that's hard to understand with our parents because it does change so fast. We're like, well, why don't they do this? But one thing I really got to understand is that our parents can't give us what they don't have, but they're giving us their best.
yeah,
That's when I really started to let go of all that stuff of, hey, you should have been here for this, or hey, I didn't feel like you were here for that. And I started to understand, damn, based on what you got, you went above and beyond. I started to measure it differently instead of just measuring it for what I got because it couldn't be equal. It's like somebody growing up without parents doing the best they can, and then you get parents, and you're like, "Well, look, you were not there for me at practice," and they're like, "Bro, I was at least there to give you the money to go to practice. My dad wasn't even there to give me any money or be there. He wasn't in the house." And it's like that's when it was like a wow, because it can be so easy 20 years later to be like, "This should have been like that. That should have been like that." But that's just not how it is so many times. And when I let go of that, it let me open up to just, appreciating the effort that was there because that's what I had to look at. It wasn't the stuff, it was the effort. And that really let me just, kind of get some things off my chest and then be like, damn, Pops, but based on what you did have, man, you were the man. You showed up young, Also, I think all of our parents were parents pretty relatively young. Like mine were 20 and 21. I think all your guys were like,
18,
yeah.
19, and 20.
So I was like, damn, bro, at 20, I wasn't even ready for a kid to be around. I would have been like, high five, peace out, player. Like, I gotta go. You was there.
Damn, dog.
I would be like, little homie, I gotta go to the club this Friday. What you mean? Cartoons, little homie? What you mean Saturday morning going to the park? So
I
then I
was
started to be like, whoa.
I would say this just to go off of what you just said about measuring them, right? I haven't really measured my parents until I became a parent. Like I never knew what it was. Like I felt that, they just did their best. And then I go through some things now while parenting. And it's like I will, if Summer wants me to show up at one of her sporting events, I'm there. Like whatever I got to do to just show up and be there and participate and watch and cheer her on and make her videos and all these things, I do that, right? And my mom would do all that. My dad wouldn't. And I'm just like, you're there, but every time I look up at the stands, you look like you always busy writing and doing other stuff. Like, are you even watching? Are you even like, you know what I'm saying? And that is, I think, sometimes, especially for us as men, right? When we go through these things and you didn't have that or there was those issues, I think if we don't work those out, they do bubble over and they do come into our parenting style and it may affect us. I think for most of us it's positive, right? We're like, hey, this is what I'm not going to do. But there's a lot of people that it affects them negatively, that they want to do. They fall into that same generational thing that has always plagued the family in the broader thing. And I think if we don't look at that and we don't have these conversations about parenting, we're still going to have fatherless children. And I think, like your stats say, being a father and being present and being in your is highly impactful just from that perspective of just being there and showing up for your kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that repeating subconsciously, I think people don't understand how powerful that rhythm is. Because I look back at my young 20s, I was repeating what my father had done, like almost like verbatim, like the lifestyle, the hanging out, all the chasing girls and all that was things that my father had done as a young male. And then I started to see, whoa, he had on top of that the responsibility of me, a wife, all this stuff. And I was like, I was expecting him to juggle all this and kind of know. And then I went through it myself and I was like, oh, wow. Now I know what it's like to be a young male and have these things happen and not know what to do, because that's going to happen sometimes. And then later be like, well, this would have worked better. Okay, well, that's in hindsight now. And I was like, well, how were you expecting him to know? He didn't even talk to his dad. And it's like I'm basing that off of what I learned from having him, not off what he had, not having him, which would have been my grandfather. So then I started to give that grace and then also consciously make the decision of how I wanted to be as a father going forward from what I learned, which I think sometimes people don't think of. How do I want to be as a dad or a mom? Or do we just do what we saw, whether we think it was positive or not? And I think a lot of times people just go on autopilot mode. This is what happened. This is what I do. That probably isn't the best all the time if you're not consciously making that decision.
Yeah, I think TVs and movies kind of shape us a lot. So
Yeah.
a lot of what I kind of saw on TV and movies, and again, I always say moving to Scripps Ranch and kind of seeing what like a not even a middle, but an upper middle class like white family looks like, and not just from TV because it's like, oh, that's just a movie, but it's like, no, I saw it in real life. I was friends with some of these guys, and even including there was some black families there as well, upper middle class. So it kind of gave me that kind of foundation, but damn, that's crazy. Yeah, I didn't really hold such a grudge that I had to think about the necessarily, well, they're just doing kind of what they knew. But now that I just thought about it, I'm like, yeah, I mean, my grandpa was in jail. He literally just got out like last year. So my mom's dad. So now I'm like, okay, so she didn't have a dad that whole time that she was, joining the military and having us. And then my dad, again, I don't want to make him seem poorer than they thought, but he always talked about how his mom was always just working, 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 working. His older sister, my Aunt Jean, raised him and used to beat him up as the older sister. So I'm like, yeah, I mean, when you think about it that way, yeah, I guess there's like 10 out of 10. Like you can't if you compare it to what they had, like but again, it was also a different time. Like none of our parents, like again, it wasn't just me and Steven, it was like 10 other of us
Right.
outside. None of our parents were doing it. So I don't even think it was because she had a dad or he didn't have a dad or she was poor or mom wasn't there. And I think that's just how the 70s and 80s, again, it was just look at Crooklyn, the movie, and a bunch of 80s movies, Goonies. Niggas was just out like that, and I think that was okay. So that standard that may seem bad now, I don't think I hold that grudge against them. But I do want to make sure that I'm a little bit more present in the growth of my son than my parents. But no downfall to them. I just want to do it because I know it's going to benefit them. Your stats just said it. It's going to benefit
I
them.
think where that comes from too is later seeing how little things earlier can turn into big things later.
They just do. We know that now. I think
Yeah.
our parents knew it, but they're like,
I don't even know if they knew it though, because like we talked on a previous episode, there wasn't as much opportunities in the past, bro.
it
Like athletes
was.
making
Yeah.
big money is new. Like they weren't making big money in the 70s, 80s. They were like, there's a lot of stories of athletes still having to work regular jobs in the 60s and 70s, like
And
bagging.
creating stuff. I mean, you got people becoming billionaires, Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, boom, 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 boom. I mean, Mark Cuban, because of the radio, I think he was playing sports radio and then he sold it to Yahoo Radio and PayPal. I mean, yeah, I think they're billionaires. There's way more ways to become a billionaire that we're aware of that we know I have to have my son focused in school so that when these opportunities come up when he's 16, he can possibly take advantage of it. And again, not to be a billionaire or millionaire, but literally be that upper middle class because I would say I'm like middle class. I want him to be upper middle class and I hope he puts some push on his kids so that they can be, maybe rich. And obviously we're trying to get rich too, but the standard, like I'm not like, oh, I'm not on my son, like, come on, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? But it's like we definitely know more about what it takes to be successful. And that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I would say one of the main differences is that the therapy, right? Our nowadays, if we go online, you can find a lot of different child psychology and understanding of babies, toddlers, all these different things. You can you on YouTube, you can find people that'll give you helpful hints on how to potty train and do all these things. Our parents didn't have that, right? They didn't have the information available to them of child psychology unless they went, if you had a child that you needed to go see a child psychologist because they were acting out, right? Some of the doctors back then, well, your kid's just being a kid. Like, you know what I'm saying? No one cared about ADHD back then. Like, unless it was to the point where it was disrupting everybody else. So then now you got to go get on Ritalin, right? Like, you got to calm down. But our parents didn't have that. They were just doing what they had available to them and the best they were doing when they were in the military and doing all these things. No one taught them, just like no one's ever taught us. But I know my wife, if hasn't seen stuff or noticing issues or seeing a behavioral pattern, she'll just go and look up stuff. Just go find doctors to say, hey, it's normal, or hey, maybe try doing this and trying to, expand her menu on what she eats and what she does and how you could correct kids when they're having fits or how to potty train. All that. We have all that to us, so it allows us, if we want to be better parents. And I think that's the other issue. There's a lot of parents out there that are just like, the school will raise my kids, or someone else is out there like, hey, I'm sending them, they got clothes, they eat, and they got a little money. That's it. That's all I got
Crazy.
for you. You know what I'm saying?
Crazy.
Like, and then these kids have no outlet, and then they're wanting stuff at home, like people that we know, right? We knew who didn't have the best home lives growing up when we'd all get around because they would always want to, they were always out trying to bring all the attention in because they didn't get no attention at home, and we didn't know that at the time. We just like, yo, this is wild, like, yo, what's
Kind of
up?
just laugh like, Johnny's funny. It's like, no,
Right,
Johnny's angry. Johnny has not.
really angry because of what's going on at home,
Yeah,
right?
Johnny's dad cursed him out. That's why he outside.
No one would check on him. That's the crazy part, right? Nowadays, they're checking, right? Like, if the parents don't do anything, that's on the parents. But the schools are checking and they are doing the best they can, but they're only so tied. So the parenting nowadays, it's you're either there for your kids and you're trying to push them and get them ready for life and future, or you're just like, hey, my kids are just, hey, I'm not living in a trailer anymore. I got a house. Like, this is the best you could do at 18. You out the crib. Like, you got to go and find your way. Like, that's where the parenting has come now, where I don't think it's ever been so stark when we were growing up. Like, we all were like, hey, who's going to college? Like, we're all talking about doing these things. And now it's just like, boom, boom, boom. Like, I'm not going to, kids already are talking in middle school. I ain't going to college. Like, what? Like, how do you know that in middle school if you're not going to college? You haven't even taken any high school classes.
Crazy, man. Definitely evolution and the exposure of parents to new ideas is definitely, I think, making an impact. Let's go to the next one. How do you teach values, love, and discipline in a world where comfort and convenience are everywhere? This is an interesting one, especially like, I think, Stephen, you sent a video in our chat that talked about lower class, middle class, middle class, and upper class. I think middle class was like 100 to 120, or like, no, it was maybe like 80 to 100. Upper middle class was like 100 to 150, and then upper class was like 165 and up. I think it was a
like
family.
It was crazy. No, yeah, it was. It definitely wasn't what in my mind what it was, but I think you're kind of close on it. I forgot what it was.
It seemed to be a little lower than I thought.
Right.
But let's just go like, bro, there's Uber now, DoorDash, all these movies at the touch of a button on a thing, streaming, right? Everything is so simple now. How are you going to teach your children discipline, hard work, earning it, in this environment, with also balancing wanting to give them, maybe some of the things you want to give them?
I think it's so hard parenting now with just the rise of influencers and just that TikTok lifestyle, right? Because all these kids and my daughter's in 8th grade, so like it's like peak, right? Like they're all just trying to fit in and being pushed all this stuff that life is supposed to be about. And these kids have no concept of money. They don't know what it costs to live lives like this or buy things or afford things. Like I try to let her value a dollar. Like I send her 20, I give her $20 to go to a football game at night. Like, hey, that's what you got, right? And now she's realizing I wasn't there, so she only got $6 last time. And she was realizing, oh man, I don't got enough for pizza and water. So she just chose pizza. But I'm like, that's how you should see how expensive this is, right? But then they're also like competing with their friends on whose parents are more wealthier, which is absolutely insane. And I'm like, homegirl, I might be an attorney, and yes, we have a nice life. You ain't like, she'll be posting videos in my Audi and acting like it's her Audi. I'm like, homegirl, stop stunting in my stuff. This isn't this thing. You stop it. Just stop it. Like, what are you doing? And she was like, oh, I'm not. And then I'm friends with you on Snapchat, homegirl. I see what you posting. Like, you acting like you driving right now. Like,
bro, let that girl chill, bro.
Yeah.
Hey, go to the next topic, bro. Let that girl chill, man. I'm not gonna let you sit up here and rant about that.
But what I'm saying is, though,
that's my Audi. Relax, bro. Relax.
Damn, I grinded for that.
But this is how the kids are acting, right?
Yeah, that's how we all act.
You have to instill this stuff in them, or it's just, if we're gonna let technology and the media raise our kids, it's going down a bad way. Because I'm at a point now where I just have to like limit her cell phone usage. Like when you limit the kid's cell phone usage, it literally impacts their ability to just act more mature. Like they're not on that level. And I think one of the things I've really tried to do is incentivizing school, and she's in swim and after school stuff, and really trying to incentivize, like, you got to show up. You got to go to practice. She just hurt herself. And I'm just like, are you injured or are you hurt? Like, this is stuff in life where you have to kind of decide what's going on. And if you're injured, that's when you stop. If you're hurt and you think you can push through it, go for it. But if you know you can't, then stop. And just trying to give her just little life lessons along the way. But you also have to meet them as a kid, right? Like, I want her to wake up every morning and clean her room before she goes to school. Failing at that, right? But what do I do, right? What do I do? Do I come down on her first thing in the morning, come down super hard on her before sending her to school? I think Des Bryant had like a really nice, he talked about a quote that he heard about, stop sending your kids to school yelling, I don't think they're going to have a good day, and stop doing these certain things to your kids right before stuff and thinking that they're going to be okay or be in the proper mind space. So it's really trying to pick your battles sometimes because it's like, I remember when I was 14, like my room was way worse, right? I was way dirtier and I was doing all these things. But at the same time, trying to work it into a way that, hey, by doing these things and staying disciplined to these things, there are rewards at the end of the day. Whether that is a monetary reward, whether that's, hey, you can go and hang out with your friends, or hey, I can have some downtime and do some just what I want to do in my room. But trying to work that in to just let them know that if you do these things, there is some benefit at the end of the day, even if you don't see it. Because, we keep a clean house, we go to work every day, we do all these things. And it's not because it's necessarily we want to do it. It's we have to do this in order to provide what we need to provide and live the lives that we want to live, even if it doesn't mean that in that exact moment I'm getting instant gratification, which I think is the hardest part right now. Is all these kids are like, oh, now. I asked for it, I get it. I want to do it, I can go do it. And it's not that. And really trying to instill in her that sometimes patience, a little bit of time, a little bit of hard work, then you see the actual end or the light at the end of the tunnel where you're like, oh wow, okay, I did all this, and then boom. And she's starting to see it with swim and even with her grades. And so using those things to just try to incentivize, that discipline and hard work is just another way of trying to do it that I think when we got it, it was chores, doing these certain things that we had to do, then get money or some type of reward.
CNN just popped up on my phone. Another active shooter. I think it said 4 people died in South Carolina. I didn't want to die, but it said I think it was another bar or nightclub or some shit like that. So at one point when you were talking, I was actually shaking my head like, God damn, dude, it's like every weekend, bro. Can you imagine if we went out to San Diego as much as we went out, and every 5 weeks or 2 weeks or 3 weeks they were like, oh, you heard that place got shot up? I mean, we were able to hang out for years, decades, without having to deal with that. It's just unfortunate for these kids and these people nowadays, just the mentality of whoever's, I'm gonna go shoot it up. I'm gonna go shoot it up. It's like Jesus Christ, man. Um, man, it's funny. So Stephen, a lot of times, like when Aubrey asked the question, the first thing I thought was it's easy, and you go, it's hard out here. And I'm thinking, God damn, like we don't never say nothing the same. So very fortunate, very fortunate. I mean, my son cleans up after himself. He actually cleans up when I don't need him to clean up. Like he'll have his donut or he'll be eating something, and he'll call me, Dad. I'm like, what? He's like, it's a mess. Somebody's got to clean it up. I'm like, all right, go get the napkin. He'll be like, okay. We'll grab the napkin, wipe it up. He's only 3.5. That might change, but a lot of that seems to already be instilled in him. Because, like I said, right now, at 3 years old, go tell your teacher sorry. Go tell grandma sorry. Go be nice to your mom. I constantly say that all the time, and he seems to gravitate toward it. The standard that I have, because a lot of times my wife is my wife. Like there's just different ways to raise people. I ran a police department for the 50th time on this podcast. I'm gonna say it. I had grown men that I had to manipulate and get shit done who didn't want to listen, who didn't want to follow rules. Being that I was that person 5, 10 years before them, I knew how to play the game. So, for instance, this one guy, um, there's a gate where you basically get to just post up and just chill. I knew because I did the research and I knew the foundation of this one individual, let alone everybody else, that he hated that post. So when he wasn't listening to his sergeant, she didn't know that. And I said, well, why do you have him at golf one? That's where he likes to be. She's like, what do you mean? Everybody likes golf four. You don't have to do nothing. I'm like, he hates that though. Man, that man almost lost his mind when he walked in. She changed it, put him on golf four. He said, Lieutenant, she put me on golf four. Look, he was panicking. I was like, hey, you need to go talk to her then. And he changed his tune. She told me he came in, apologized, whoopty whoopty whoop. That's the way I plan on raising my son. Like if I gotta be hard, like you said, the room ain't clean in the morning. Hey man, I'm sorry you might ruin your day, but this is gonna be. It's not optional. Anything I tell my son is never gonna be optional. Either I want it done or I don't. And yeah, I take away all his toys all the time. I put him in timeout. I do all that stuff. And my wife's like, he don't listen to me. He don't do that. I'm like, you kind of still cater to him a lot. You really do. He knows, and that's what we talk about as the dads. Now again, you do have daughters, and I'm not going to act like those are the same. When if I get there, we're baby number 2 should be hopefully planning real soon. Then we'll have a different conversation. But with my son, yo, it's easy for me right now, and I'm very lucky. I mean, he don't play with outlets. He don't like it because he wants to plug in his Halloween stuff. And Dad, I want to plug it in now. I'm like, that's what's up. My wife's like, have you checked on him? I'm like, he's upstairs, he chilling. He knows to call me. He knows when he does something, poo poo, pee pee. Hey, dad, hey, he'll call me. And then when I tell him not to do something, he doesn't do it. And again, he ain't perfect, but when I do correct him, he's very receptive to it. So I'm good. That's why I just want to stay on that path of not being too crazy with him. I do teach him the value of a dollar. I bought the piano for him when he said he wanted it. That's what Craigslist is for. I didn't go buy a $500 piano. I bought a little $20 piano. He gets donuts every day, but there's days that I'm like, you know what? We got snacks at the house. Let's go. He's like, I want one now. I'm like, and then we had that conversation in the car. I'll pull over. Hey, just because you get a donut every day, because he says, I was nice to my teacher. Can I get a donut? That's not why we're nice to our teacher, though. So we'll go get one. But remember, you're nice to your teacher because you're supposed to be nice to your teacher. The donut is extra. I think that's the stuff man, our parents just didn't do. My dad ain't never bought me no goddamn donut, man. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's definitely an interesting time with so many things to distract and just kind of give them that feeling of this is fun, this is easy. And I think on the other side of that, showing them by modeling what I'm willing to do. And I think one thing that happens that's really tough for parents, is you can grind your 20s and 30s, right? This is a 20 and 40 podcast. Grind in your 20s and 30s, and you're raising your children to have more than you did, right? Because you want to give them that life. And then you start to accumulate because you grinded. And now when they can start to really see and process consciously, they start to see you being able to chill and enjoy kind of the fruits of your labor. And all they see is you chilling. They don't in your mind, you're like, well, I've been grinding for years. What are you talking about? In your mind. But they never saw that. And this is where it comes where the cats are like, you know what? I did all this. I used to be this and this. But then they see you now, maybe, chilling, maybe not as healthy, maybe, a little bit more or less disciplined because you knew what you had to do to get there to give them this stuff. But I think one thing that we have to understand is that they can't see that, even when we explain that. And one thing that I just try to be aware of is I get to keep modeling that for them to see it now, right? When I tell, when I'm doing things with my daughter as she grows, right? Am I doing all the things I'm telling her to be? Am I waking up consistently, disciplined, working out, eating right, doing the things I need to do so that she sees it? More is caught than is taught. Them seeing it without you needing to tell them it is the most powerful thing. It's like they say, your parents telling you not to smoke with a cigarette in their mouth. It just doesn't work. So I think that's one of the key things is, and that's harder as you get into your 30s and 40s. Sometimes, like I've been working out since I remember bench pressing in the garage at like 12, 13 years old with the little small, narrow bench press, almost always clipping your hands every time you rack it. And then I really got into it around 15 and 16 years old. And sometimes I'll be working out and I'm like, bro, I'm tired of these same old moves. I've been doing these same moves for 25 years, homie. Bench press, flies, like ain't nothing changed. But you know what I remember is that if I don't do this now, what are they going to see? Right? What are they going to see? I can't just tell them, well, I worked out since I was your age. They can't understand that. They need to wake up and see me. I heard my younger brother lives with me, right? Sometimes listening to this podcast, maybe you'll hear that. I heard him one time say, dang, that's crazy. You got home after me. And I know it's because I left to work. Woke up, worked out, went to work, and got home after him. So left before him and got home after him because he gets to see what the grind takes in real time. By the time my daughter is his age, I won't be working like this because I have investments and all this other stuff. So I've got to find other ways for her to see the grind because they still need to see it. That's one thing I think is the biggest gift my mom and dad gave to me is I saw the grind. They didn't have to sit down and tell me to grind. I saw it. So when you see it, it's like learning your language that you grow up in. You don't really get sat down and say, hey, this is the and cat. You get that, but you kind of hear them just talk and you just do what they do. It's a mirror neuron in us as humans. So I think that's one of the key things is continuing to discipline ourselves, even as our children grow, to show them instead of just telling them. I think where parents start to diverge is there's two kind of parents. There's a parent that says, do this and this and that. And this is the story that says, when you tell your kids to trace your dreams, but you stop chasing yours, like they know what you're doing. And it's the same thing. There's a parent that says and doesn't do, and then there's a parent that says and does. I think that's really the big difference. That I think is hard because you can't say the action. You've got to do it. Nobody can lift the weights for you, do the discipline for you, eat the healthy food for you, all that stuff. And it can't be done in an easy way. There's no way around it. No app, no streaming service, nothing. Just straight work. So I think that's one of the biggest things that we can give as a gift to our kids. All right, last one. I think this is a cool
Yeah,
one. If
yeah,
your
let it happen.
child could describe you as a father 20 years from now, what would you hope they say? And we'll finish out on this one.
You know, I just want my kids to know that I love them, right? Like everything that I did, everything good, bad, and in between, that they just be like, you know what, my dad loved me and my dad always showed up, right? Like I always want them to know at the end of the day that no matter what has happened, I tell my daughter anytime, like as I don't care what's happening. If you just tell me what's going on, I can help you. But if you don't tell me, I can't help. Right. And you have to just come to me. I'm not going to be mad at you if you just come to me and tell me. We're just going to, I might be a little disappointed, but we're going to work it out. We're going to get through it. Right. Like at the end of the day, I have your back. And I always want my kids to know that if I ask my dad to be somewhere, that he always shows up. So they can depend on me to always just show up and be there. If they call in 2 o'clock in the morning, dad's picking up the phone. Like, and as long as they have those two things and they know that I love them and I'll show up, like that's all you can really ask for as a father, right? Like is, you get to see your kids, your kids know that they love you and you showed up for them. And that's one of the biggest pieces of advice that the judge gave me, right? I always complain sometimes about my teenage daughter because they're just so, man, I hope Pep gets a daughter. And I hope when you guys get teenagers, you guys be like, all right, Stephen, I understand now. But he was just like, you know what? At the end of the day, they're gonna be who they're gonna be, and they're gonna all act the same. And when they're in their teenage years as girls, they push away from their parents and their father. But then if you show up, even though they're pushing you away, back in their 20s and 30s, they're gonna come back. And so I've always just had that in my mind that I always come from a place of love, even if it's me trying to discipline, it's always from a place of love and caring and understanding. And that I always, no matter what, even if I don't feel, I feel like being a father is a thankless job sometimes, right? No one, everyone gives loves to mother all the time. I love moms. I love my mom. I love my family. But I feel like for dads, we don't get that same benefit of the doubt sometimes. We always have to put in some type of work for people to think, oh, okay, you're a good dad because you do boom, boom, boom. When sometimes moms are like, oh man, you're just a great mom because you're there. You're doing it. You're showing up every day. And it's like for dads, we can't show up in the same way. We are different and we parent different. And so as long as my kids know I love them and that dad always showed up, that's what I hope that they remember about me.
I was shocked you still had more questions. What was that last one? I like lost my train of thought. I was like, damn, he's still going. What
In
was the
20
last question?
years, what do you want your kids to say about you?
Oh, okay. I wanted to piggyback off one of your last statements before I answer that. Um, I don't know if they have to necessarily, you said they need to see I don't know if they actually necessarily need to because I mean, you got a bunch of people out there trying to emulate whether it be the celebrity world. And so it's real easy for them to say, I want to be like Steph Curry, but they don't necessarily see the grind that Steph did to get there. And they still strive as hard as they can. I mean, there's thousands of kids out there, they want to be just like Steph, and they don't care about his grind and they didn't actually see it. So I think that's where if I can answer that question in 20 years, and this kind of goes into episode 21, because I'll be hosting, is I'm maybe I'm just screwed in the head right now, but it's just gonna be zero tolerance, man. Like the guy who shot Charlie Kirk. I'm not turning my son in on some bitch shit, but I sure is fucking covering for him. And that was part of being a cop too, man. I used to tell people like, hey, look, man, we've been working together 5, 6 years. If you do something illegal and they ask me, did you see it? I'm going to say yes, I saw it. Like I'm not lying for you. It's zero tolerance for me jeopardizing everything I built for anybody, including my son. Like there may become a time where like if I know he didn't do it, I might go to jail for him. But if you did something, I'm gonna have to live with that. I didn't raise you properly, that you did something that you have to go to jail, but I'm not lying for you. I'm not covering for you. And there's the world does not care. Zero tolerance for everything. And again, you'll know what I'm talking about on the next topic. Just zero tolerance, man. That's so in 20 years, that's what I hope my son takes out of everything that I'm trying to tell him. Like, nobody cares about your sob story. Nobody cares you came from the ghetto. Nobody cares you were rich. Nobody cares your parents were on drugs. Nobody cares you had to go in the military. Nobody cares. So zero tolerance. Do what's right at all times. Be respect. All those, like, basically the commandments, right? And go from there. So in 20 years, that's what I hope my son takes away, because that's the only thing that has really helped me in the last, like, decade or so, is I stopped making excuses for everything. There's always an excuse for something.
Gotcha. My thing that I hope my kids can say about me, which is one thing I really got from my parents. I always felt this from my mom. Dad, I think understanding what he gave me versus what he didn't get really helped me understand it later, especially as I became a parent. It's just my kids know that I was always down for them, right? That, my parents, I always knew they were down for me. Like, there wasn't a mistake. Like, do they love me? Do they not? Some of the things my dad did, I was like, but now that I understand him more, that was his way of showing it. It was just different. But that my kids always know I was down for them. I always had their back, and that was unquestionable. Because I do see a difference in some children that don't necessarily know that, and it cracks their foundation. I think it leads to a lot of self-worth issues, a lot of self-confidence issues, because your parents are the first people that you learn your self-worth from, right? And if they know that in their heart of heart, in their soul to soul, I don't have to tell them, dad loves you and dad's down with it. They just know it, like gravity. I think that's one of the biggest things. And I hope you guys, our kids, get to see this in a couple of years and be like, damn, that was cool that they made this time capsule for us. But that's it for episode 20. Letter to our children, letter to our unborn child, right? If you're a Tupac fan. And keep liking, subscribing, saving, commenting. We appreciate it all, as we're just trying to get nuggets and value out there. Hopefully this helps some of our, listeners that are parents, going to be parents, have parents. So this should be everybody. And let's get it. Let's keep on growing. Let's keep on making a difference for the 20 to 40 podcast. Peace.